Welcome to my car review of this 1992 Nissan R32 Skyline GT-R. Now this Nissan Skyline comes with a 2.6 liter twin turbo inline 6. Now this engine is rated for 276 horsepower at 6,800 RPM and 266 pound-feet of torque at 4,400 RPM. The red line maxes out at 6,750 RPM. And the miles per gallon I haven't been able to find, but it's somewhere around 16 to 19 miles per gallon. One of the reasons is because it's a Japanese import. It's all in kilometers anyway, and they use liters. So, well, real world tells me that 16 to 18 miles per gallon is about what the average owner gets. Now, the RB26 DETT Nissan engine is a twin-turbo straight 6 with an 8.5 to 1 compression ratio. It weighs about 3,263 pounds curb weight, and the 0 to 60 comes in at about 4.7 seconds with a top speed of 155 miles per hour. Now, this car is the front engine, a Tesla all-wheel drive 8th generation legendary coupe built by Nissan, the Skyline GT-R. This is the generation that harkened the return of the GT-R specification of the Skyline, which had last been seen in the 4th generation C110 in 1977. The R32, now being over 25 years old, is exempt from the federal laws that ban them due to emissions regulations in the US, and was imported in its original right-hand drive configuration. I really can't compare it easily to any other car I've driven, not just because it's right-hand drive, but really because it's the first 90s era Japanese high-performance tuner car I've driven, as competitors of the time were the Toyota Supra, the 3000 GT, the RX-7, and even the 300ZX, which I haven't driven any of them. The exterior of the R32 definitely dates itself to the 90s, with the exterior missing any of today's curves or harsh edges, fake vents, LED light bars, but it definitely has a classic design that puts this car above the previous generation boxy 80s cars. It's muscular but nondescript, and I doubt too many outside auto enthusiasts would be excited by this car if they saw it on the street, save for the weird right-hand drive feature. Okay, the interior. Yeah, it's right-hand drive, and it's weird that you shift with the left hand, but it's not like the shifter pattern is any different, or the clutch and brake and accelerator are in any different positions. But yeah, it's definitely weird to drive on the other side of the car. Now, the main driver's seat has like this cockpit. It suits the car, as many other similar ideas of the time, like the Supra, also had this feature or design, and even the later S2000 had a similar idea. Another weird quirk is the turn signals on the right side, where normally the window wiper switch is. So yeah, it tends to trip you up a little bit there. Yeah, you have to get used to it. But besides the weird features, the rest of the interior, let's move on. The cloth seats aren't the highest quality, but the shape of the seats are really good, and they hug you really well, even in the back seat. As far as suspension and handling goes, the suspension and handling is solid. I wasn't able to drive it hard as it was really wet. I was not accustomed to being on the right side of the car. Still, I felt almost no body roll, and the ride wasn't harsh, but it wasn't exactly a lightweight car. The owner is unsure if the Tesla all-wheel drive system in this car is functioning, which may explain the slight wiggle I got while cornering on one of the ramps. As far as power goes, power was my biggest curiosity. During the era in which this car was developed, starting in 1989, the major automakers in Japan had a gentleman's agreement in which they limited the advertised horsepower figures to 276. Now, many of the high-end sports cars of the time may have well exceeded those power figures, but it would remain advertised as 276. Now, the R32 GT-R was tested back then to exceed 320 horsepower with its 2.6 twin-turbo straight 6 straight from the factory. Well, I've talked enough about the facts. Now on to my driving impressions of the power. They were really good. The turbos kicked in really strong, starting at about 3,000 RPM, and they kept building. While I didn't ring it out to redline, I did get it close to about 6,000 RPM, and I didn't feel the power drop off at any point. Simply put, it pulls hard. Now, the overall comfort. The car is not a luxury car. It doesn't swaddle you in luxury, and it's about average when it comes to comfort. The seats are pretty nice as far as comfort, but the materials aren't that great, and it's old. It has automatic climate control, but yeah, it's more sporty, not comfy. Alright, the pros. The single greatest thing about this vehicle is not how it looks, or the handling, or even the power. No. The greatest thing about this car is that it is a Nissan Skyline GT-R. It is the car, the myth, the legend, Godzilla. The cons. Alright, the car has some eccentricities. Besides being right-hand drive, which makes it a little bit harder to drive in the United States, where everything is left-hand drive. So you have to get used to not biasing the car to the left or making weird turns where normally you would have blind spots in different areas. Yeah, just spend some time getting used to it, and that's not that bad of an issue. But there are some potential oil issues where it can leak. There isn't very much room in the engine bay to work on the car, and just to give you an idea, me and the owner spent about 2 to 3 hours replacing one oil pressure sensor, having to move aside the high-cast rear steering system and a few fuel lines to get a wrench in there. Yeah, the car is old, and the power and handling and really all aspects of the car are kind of dated, but in the minds of those who've only seen this car in video games, we need to realize its age and give it some credit. And it needs to be respected as a classic car it is. Alright, so now we've come to the scoring section of the video, where I will be rating the car from 1 to 7 in the following categories. Looks, number 2, acceleration, 3, handling, 4, luxury, 5, practicality, 6, quality and reliability, and 7, value. After that, I will total the score and come up with a final tally. On the category of looks, I'll give this car a 5. The R32 GT-R is iconic, and it has so much road presence. Unfortunately, I have to dock it a few points because the non-auto enthusiast probably wouldn't give it a second glance. Acceleration. I'll give this car a 5. Now, this one isn't subjective. It simply has a 0 to 60 of under 5 seconds, which gives it an appropriate 5. Handling. I give this car a 5 in handling as well. Now, the car is just solid when it comes to maneuvering, but I'll dock it a few points just because it is pretty heavy and it just can't handle just as well as some of these lighter sports cars. Luxury. I give it a 3 just because it's not very luxurious. It's not a luxury car. It was a sports car with a very high performance trim, and yeah, there's no leather, there's no heated seats. You're not gonna get very good sound deadening. Yeah, I'll give it a 3. Practicality. I'll also give this a 3. The car is a 2+2 coupe, so it kind of gets a dock for less accessibility to the back seats, as well as the trunk space not being entirely huge. It's not super practical just because it also doesn't get very good gas mileage. You have to put premium in, and the low miles per gallon really docks some extra points. Quality and reliability. I give this a 2 just because it's very old and they have issues that are well known, especially when it comes to the oil pressure and leaking that I've mentioned previously. And being a 25-plus-year-old car, yeah, parts are hard to come by, especially because it was never sold in the US. So I'll give it a 2. Value. I'll give this a 6. At $26,000, the Nissan Skyline GT-R R32 this being a 92 model, commands a high price. First of all, it's an import which wasn't sold here, so it makes them very rare. Secondly, if you've been following Toyota Supra prices, the Mark IV Supras have been just going crazy with their pricing, and this R32, being a direct competitor, is also rising in price. Now, the only reason I don't give it a full 7 is because it is an older vehicle, and it's not a 100% guarantee where that value is going to be, especially because it's still $26,000. While that's affordable to pay for a normal car, for a sidecar or like a weekend car, that might not be affordable for the average person. So the total score comes to 29, which makes this vehicle the new top dog. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this car review. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos if you like this one. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.